Skill number 2 looks at control mapping and control library management, which is somewhat logical in the sense that once you develop your risk registers based on the risk assessments, then you will have to have controls in place that actually addresses the various risks within your risk register and managing your overall control library. So as it relates to control mapping and control library management, this often involves you mapping controls to various frameworks. And this is so important when it comes on to organizations or businesses that operate within regulatory environments. It could be finance, it could be healthcare. And the list goes on. So typically you have a number of frameworks, such as the NIST 853, you have ISO 27001, you have SOC 2, you have GDPR, you have HIPAA, and in many instances, there could be a combination. It could be a requirement for a combination of different frameworks, controls to be implemented. So when it comes down to mapping controls, that is your ability to align these controls based on the various categories from these various frameworks and to apply the requisite control according to the requirements and documentations available. So in many instances, then employers see this as being very important based on the fact that without strong mapping, then audits become very costly in organizations. So that is where you, as that GRC professionals, help to make this a well-structured, organized process. So without strong mapping, audits become costly, inconsistent, and non-repeatable. Therefore, one control, many obligations, reduce duplication. So that is where you actually comes into the picture, having a well-organized, well-oiled machinery that is repeatable. That is where you have the development of those control mapping and having that control management library. And if we look at this at various proficiency level, if you're at an entry level within the GRC space, then you're required to map controls under supervision, of course. If you're at a mid-level, then you're required to own control set for a particular scope. If you're at a senior level, then you're required to harmonize multiple framework landscapes and rationalize these various overlaps. So in a nutshell, we have addressed what it means in terms of an understanding. We look at why this actually matters to the employers and the typical proficiency by various levels, mid-level, entry level, senior level. So with that said, then we are now ready to dive into the task or suggested task or exercise or activity associated with giving you an idea of what is actually meant by control mapping, developing a control library. So here we're going to be delving into this actual task that states that given a requirement, example, access reviews, that's your requirement. Then you're required to map this to a SOC 2 criteria and to a NIST control family, identify evidence artifacts. And these are things that you will come across in real-world environments. So in the next segment, we're going to be looking at this at a high level.